In this training, we're going to take a look at how you can utilize conditions inside of a trigger for your automation in SmartSuite. So if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. In previous training videos, we've already taken a look at how you can set up a trigger inside of a SmartSuite automation that uses conditions. But in this particular training, we want to go a lot deeper on how to utilize those conditions and how to stack multiple conditions to get exactly what you need inside of your automation trigger. So let's start by creating an automation. I'll click on my solution and I will select automations from the dropdown. And inside of here, you see that I already have an existing automation, so I'll add a new automation. Here is my trigger. In order to utilize conditions, I need to make the record matches a condition selection. So in our case, first I select an app. I have two different apps in this solution. I can either choose test 1 or test 2. I'll go with test 2. And first I need to establish at least one condition for this particular trigger. So what this means is this automation will only initiate and execute its function when a record inside of this app meets whatever conditions I establish here. So I could say something like the status field. Of course, this presupposes that I have a status field in my app. I could say it's equal to, is not equal to, has any of, has none of, is empty, is not empty, is complete, or is not complete. My point isn't to go line by line through all the options. My point instead is to show you there's so much flexibility in how you can establish a condition. Let's suppose that what I wanted was a record matching the condition where the status is equal to one of two options. So maybe I have two options out of 4 that I want to have trigger my automation. In my particular case, I have 4 different statuses available, the default statuses, and I want 2 of them to initiate my automation. So I will say has any of in this case. Now I will select that plus, and I will pick whatever options I want to include for this trigger. So maybe I want this automation to trigger if the status is in process or it's complete. So now I have an automation trigger that will function on the condition that the status is in process or incomplete. Any other status will not initiate and execute this automation. Now, that's pretty simple in and of itself. But it's important to note that I can stack conditions. Just one condition doesn't have to be the standard. I can layer multiple conditions, and the requirement here will be that all or some of those conditions must be true. So let's add a condition here where I say the due date is on or before October 1st, 2022. Well, as you see here, I'm on date actions. So these are actions that I can take within dates from today. So today, tomorrow, a month ago. But maybe this isn't what I want. I want a hard code October 1st, 2022. I can click out of date actions, back up a layer, and now I can choose a specific date. Or I can access dates from trigger as well. Well, in our case, the trigger is what we're working on. So I'm not going to play with the dates from trigger here, but I'll go to specific date. Let's say on or before this particular day and make that selection. So what does this toggle mean? Well, in this case, it's toggled to and, which means that in order for this automation to initiate and to execute, it would need to meet both conditions simultaneously. So in layman's terms, that would mean that the status is in process or complete, and the due date of that record is on or before October 1st. So anything that's assigned to a due date after the 1st of October 2022 would never meet this condition. Alternatively, I can toggle this to or, and this of course means that only one of these conditions must be met in order to initiate the automation. So I could have a status that is either in process or complete, or a due date that is on or before October 1st could be assigned, and that will also initiate the automation regardless of what the status is. So you see how this toggle can be very powerful. Now, one more thing I want to note is that if I add additional conditions after this, let's say the auto number is greater than 100, for example. My toggle must be consistent across all of my conditions. So it's either and for all my conditions, or it's or for all my conditions. So be mindful of that as you're building your automations, but I think you can see how powerful this condition is inside of establishing an effective trigger for your automation. If you have any questions about what we covered in this training, please ask them below in the comments section of this video. And until then, we'll see you in the next training.